Yes. Just looking at the Department of Interior. Yeah. If you could just get me those viral diseases, AIDS, hepatitis C, the hairy cell leukemia, yeah, and hepatitis B. I'd like to know, are we going to kill? No, are we going to cure disease? Now, I know that as much as you dislike the thought of it being popular to give to a certain charity, there are those that only give to what's popular. My concern is that after 40 or 50 years of research, we don't seem to be answering the question of the cure. Now, for those that are eugenicists that think, well, we may or may not have a cure for certain diseases, but we actually want the population to die, and it would be contrary to our personal belief system to have a larger humanity. But for myself, being that individual that wants to double the size of humanity, yes, I actually want every human being to live, and I want them to live very long lives. So when you run through the very popular charities of research of, well, there's no use in curing cancer if you want people to die. Amazing family that you are. There's no use in wanting to cure Hep B or Hep C or AIDS or any other disease of humanity. Now, I know there's some billionaires out there that say, well, I always give. But then there are those that are more concerned about the International Monetary Fund. International law. Now, whatever we cure in this nation could be cured in other nations. Could you give me the actual employees of the IMF and all of the loans that they made? Because we've already gone through those. Yes. It seemed that some very, very wealthy individuals throughout the world liked the idea of third world nations being, well, let's see, dependent upon them. Yeah. And then they say they want to cure the diseases of humanity, but they never seem to get the actual cure because the research just doesn't go the way that they thought it would. Now, during the credit crisis that began in 2007, leaders of developed economies committed more than $1 trillion to the IMF. To fight the global economic recession. Now, when you think about the leaders of the developed world, we gave $1 trillion to fight the United States recession that took place because of the credit crisis. You remember that, Pooch? Now, exactly how much of the developed economies have committed trillions upon trillions of dollars to support the economies of the world? And then on the other side, they actually want them to not be successful so they can take ownership of their utilities and they can cause their populations to die. It's really a defeatist ideology. Yes, to spend all this money to support developing nations, and then on the other side, um, want them to fail so that you can have ownership of all the private industries. Yes. Now, in the 1990s, do you remember the currency crisis of Asia? I was thinking about the Asian countries because we haven't focused on them a lot. Laos, Vietnam, Thailand. The smaller Asian nations where they themselves have human citizens that do get the same diseases as we get over here. And East Asia, I'm not talking China or Japan, these big global economies. Just give me not the Philippines, there's three Philippines, the Philippines. Why don't you get me Vietnam and Laos and Thailand and, the 10 smallest Asian nations and just go through and find out how many of their population have these illnesses where we spent so many billions upon billions of dollars researching the cures of the diseases that are important to us, the developed nations, and then the possibility of these different supercomputers. Well, let's say you live in Laos. I had a friend in elementary school. His family was from Laos. Went to his house multiple times. He was a nice guy. Yes, yes, yes. We were somewhat of good friends. It was a cultural difference. I was a Polish Caucasian and he was from Laos. Now, as an American Caucasian, is there a possibility that the IMF? We decide to spend $1 trillion supporting this economy? Yes. And $1 trillion supporting the rest of the world? Yes. Of that $1 trillion that the leaders of the developed economies committed, that we're fighting the global economic recession? Yes. Exactly how much of that was spent? You know, when you, well, did we spend it all? What, you'd be surprised how much good $1 trillion could do. Yes. Now, go through and find out exactly where that $1 trillion went. And I know the TARP funds, Fuchin. You know, I remember when Hank Paulson stood up and told the leaders of Congress, he said, we've got to do this. Okay, we have an economic crisis and house prices are falling and we're not going to be able to lend because there's a huge squeeze on the whole banking system because of this problem we have. Yeah. But I didn't realize that we committed another $1 trillion throughout the world. Now, it, it's only 10 years ago. Uh, could you call the International Monetary Fund? Yeah. How much of the IMF's influence is in East Asia? Now, I'm sure. Oh no. No. South Korea is a developed nation. Do they get illnesses and diseases similar to American citizens? A lot of these diseases are prominent throughout all of humanity. You have Hep B and Hep C in your nation? Chuck.